What is that one thing on your awakening journey that might actually be holding you back from experiencing spiritual growth? Well, what if I told you that might actually be your own vibration? Now, the one thing I really want to point out here is that when you hear, stay in that high vibration, don't get sucked into that lower state of vibration, this does not actually mean in a spiritual sense that you should never experience, the grief, the loss, the shame, the resentment, whatever emotions that life is trying to bring up for you based on the experiences that you're going through. What's key here is to understand that everything serves a purpose. And when those emotions come up, the right way to really move through them is for us to really experience them, but then to allow them to flow through us. Those are temporary experiences that we are having as human beings. And we don't want to avoid the emotions that are coming up with certain experiences, the thoughts that we're having. We want to acknowledge them with awareness, but then allow them to really move through us. The problem really comes up when we avoid certain emotions, when we refuse to look at what an experience is really trying to teach us. And that is where we experience that, lower vibrational state, because what we're essentially doing is based on whatever negative experiences or thoughts or emotions that are coming up with those experiences, because we're not allowing them to move through us, we get stuck there. And that impacts our vibration. Our vibration then essentially is our state of being that we return to after any experience, and it is what we're normally operating from. And so what you're really trying to achieve on your awakening journey and on your spiritual path is you are trying to tap into those higher states of consciousness, but that can only be done when you raise your vibration. What you want to remember here is, the denser and lower frequencies, lower vibrations are things like fear, guilt, shame, resentment. And so we want to let those go, allow those to move through us so we can start tapping into those higher frequencies. Things like joy, peace, love, and especially gratitude, because those are very light and expansive for us on our awakening journey. Now, when we are, operating through those experiences that life tosses at us that really suck us down into those lower vibrations, that is okay. As long as we remember that that experience is temporary and we don't get sucked into it for a longer period of time. We find our way back into transforming our state of being and returning back to a baseline that is higher. So that is the key to your awakening journey, is making sure that you are becoming aware of how you are feeling, what you are thinking, what emotions are coming up for you, so that you can, from that higher state of awareness, really look at what you are going through, extract the lesson that is trying to teach you, and then return to your higher baseline, allowing you to return back to an emotional state, a state of being that is higher, one where you are back into a feeling of gratitude, coming back to a feeling of love and vibrating love, coming back into a place of joy where you are, curious, having fun. So you want to always, really check in with yourself as you're moving through life to say, what is my current state of being? And that is going to be your key to shifting your vibration so that you can continue to make progress on your awakening journey. Now, why is a high vibration so important during your awakening journey? Well, you essentially want to understand that you're moving away from survival consciousness to soul consciousness. And that really means that, that old self that was wounded, that was conditioned, you are ready to leave that behind and become more acquainted with your soul, that higher awareness, that higher perspective, really seeing things from the perspective of the observer versus really being stuck in that role that you thought you were playing. And so with that, you will find, as you make this shift, you are less reactive in situations. You will find, if this is working out for you successfully, that you will not be drowning in your emotions. You will see them bubble up, surface up for you, but you will understand their role. You will understand from a higher perspective what it's really trying to teach you. And as you do that, you know that you're making the shift in the right direction so that your state of being is now operating from a higher level of awareness. So what do we really call this, shift that's taking place on your awakening journey? Well, you call it transmutation. This is when you finally are able to take life's experiences, emotions, and really give them the space that they need to pass through you without them impacting you on a belief basis, on an emotional basis, an energetic basis, it disrupting your thought patterns. And so holding a higher state of being is going to be your key. Remember that keeping your vibration high is not about being perfect, but it's remembering who you really are and being able to bring yourself back there again and again and again, regardless of the experience that you are having. The old self should have been caught up in the emotions because of your wounds, the way that you processed information, the way that you processed your emotions. But as you start to move along this journey, the shift that should be taking place is that you take a look at whatever you have, whatever you're going through, whatever emotions are surfacing, you give them the space to be, and you are ready to release them, you are ready to transmute them, and then bring yourself back to your new baseline, which should be, more acquainted with joy, peace, gratitude, all of that. And so keeping a close eye on your vibrational state is going to be key. It is going to be your own effort, your own conscious effort to keep bringing yourself back to that higher vibration, regardless of what it is that you are experiencing. When you become steady enough on this path is when you start to tap into those higher states of consciousness, and you will start to see greater progress on your awakening journey.